All right, let's start with a whole body warm up. And today we're going to work on more of a classic Pilates workout where we're strengthening all the joints and then lengthening them out to release. So let's start straight away with the neck. So if we place the right hand on the right side of the head, and we're going to gently pulse for 10, 9, and we'll go for roughly 10 of these. But we're going into that and see if you can feel that engagement right into the muscles of the throat. So leaning in. Now the neck obviously is an area where we tend to hold a lot of pressure, the weight of the skull, and we often don't give the neck muscles enough of an opportunity to really relax. So by working the muscles, firing them up, we're encouraging that blood supply. You might start to feel a little warmth here. No forcing, it just needs a light pressure to engage the muscles. We're then going to encourage the body to strengthen those muscles, get that rich blood supply going. And then it's much easier for the muscles to then relax, so we get a bit more comfort in the neck, into the shoulders. Last couple of times on this side, and really don't overdo it, just that light pressure, you'll feel the engagement and then the release. Because for healthy muscles, we want them to be able to contract and release. We want this nice, spongy, supple quality to the muscles. Last time on this side, and then just shrug out the shoulders and we'll go straight across to the side. So left hand on the left side of the head. Sometimes this works well, keep going now, with that gentle pressure. It sometimes works well if you've got a yoga block, just pressing the head in. Somehow there's something about the different sensations, something that's not your hand that you're pressing into that isn't too hard, that just gives you a little bit more of that sensory feedback, and you can feel the muscles engaging and relaxing. Now we are wanting to get that spongy quality into the muscles. But we want to keep the jaw soft, so let's try and keep stress out of the rest of the body. The last couple of times on this side, and then again we'll shrug out. We'll be going for the forehead next. Just feeling, you're going slow enough that you can even have your hand on the outside of the neck so you feel that engagement and the softening and release. And even having the hand on the neck can just help go to that relaxing phase. Okay, shrug out the shoulders. All right, hand on the forehead. You can stack the hands and gently press the forehead into the hands. Really feel that right into so many muscles for the neck and throat. So just a few gentle rounds, enough to feel that engagement, the release, engagement, and release. And then let the hands go, just turn the head. And then hands behind the head, gently pull back, but with the chin tucked slightly into the neck. And you want to go really slowly glide in and out of this strengthening of the neck muscles, so there's no jerking. And you can sense where that's far enough. Don't need to go any further, but just enough to feel whatever sensations there are to feel. After this one, we do a neck roll, it should feel lovely. So we're quite comfortable with the chin dropping forward to the chest, but when we drop the head back, you want to have a little bit of support. There's not so much strength in that movement of dropping the head back, so you want to probably lift your shoulders for that phase of the movement. Let the hands go. So as we drop the right ear to the right shoulder, think about maybe elevating the shoulders so that you reduce the stretch. And again, as the head drops back, a little bit of a lift in the shoulders so that we're not leaving the neck too vulnerable. So a couple of circles in this direction, nice soft jaw. And then we're moving on to the shoulders. If you feel particular sensations at any point in this circle, maybe pause there and just let sensations start to fizzle out and let the body become accustomed to that lengthened position for the muscles. All right, we're ready for the arms. Let's take the arms out wide. Let's start by stretching to try and reach the side walls and then plugging the shoulders into the sockets. Really squeeze the pencil between the shoulder blades. Twice more, reaching wide, stretching into the fingertips. We're engaging all of the arm muscles and then squeezing that imaginary pencil between the shoulder blades. Squeeze, last time. Breathing deeply, stretching for the whole length of the arms, that wide wingspan. And now we're taking the shoulders forward, leaving the shoulders and the thumbs coming all the way forward, so the shoulder blades separate. Go to your end range, and then reverse, the counter movement all the way back. So we're going to toggle between stretching the pecs and engaging the pecs. Similarly, the back of the body, that contraction and release. So we're targeting front and back alternately. With the arms elevated, quite normal to start to feel the body temperature rise a little bit here. With the heart rate rise. A little bit of warmth into the shoulders. Give me 2 more like this, and then we'll be taking the shoulders into a lifted position and then down. So elevation, depression of the shoulders. So keep the shoulders back. Now lift the shoulders up towards the ears, the back of the ears, and then all the way down. So you lengthen the neck. Keep going like this. I know your arms will start to feel a lot heavier. But if we strengthen the joints, we're far less likely to strain. And it's all that aim of keeping the muscles nice and young and supple, able to contract, able to relax. One more like this, lifting the shoulders high and then dropping back. That's using your lats to draw the shoulders right down. Last thing, before you drop your arms, a little bit of fatigue we find, or take a rest if you need to. We're circling, so shoulders come forwards, up to the ears, and then breathe out, shoulders back and down. See if you can match the breath, breathing in and forwards, and up, breathing out, shoulders back and down. Minor warming up, tiring out a little bit with the effort is all fine. And let's change the direction, so the arms, shoulders down, back, up to the ears and forwards. When we stretch out, it's just going to feel so yummy. Give me one more like this. And shrug out. Let all the tension flow out. We can take the head side to side. And now let's stretch out. So the right arm in front of you, across the body. Put that left arm underneath and lightly pull the arm out of the socket whilst leaning back. So creating space in that right shoulder. Just make sure the head is, the neck is in a comfortable position. So it can be nice to drop the left ear down to the left shoulder, away from the shoulder that we're relieving. Enjoy. One more breath here. Lightly pulling, using the hand around the biceps to lightly give that length and space as the shoulders. And then shrug out. Other side, extend the left arm across the body. Take that hook underneath, a secure hold on the biceps, and pull and find some length in the shoulder joint. I'm still stretching into the fingertips because we think about the deeper connective tissue that all the muscles connect to. We're adding to that stretch release of connective tissues in this shoulder by stretching right into the fingertips. Shoulders down, jaw relaxed, and we can drop the head away from that active stretch. Breathing deeply. Next, ribs. Not a joint, but obviously the ribs then affect the shoulders and the hips. I'm going to take the legs a little bit wider, hands on the ribs, and take the ribs all the way over to the right. Nothing else moves, the legs stay where they are. See where you find that kind of restriction where you can't go any further, and then take the ribs across the other side. We're aiming for a horizontal line, gliding side to side with the ribs, but we're pausing on each side just to feel any sensations there are to feel. Try to keep the tailbone slightly pointing down to the floor, so we've not got that sway back. So just working into the muscles of the waist, And let's try and get the hips, the ribs coming forward. So hands on the crest of the hips, the ribs come forward, and then press forwards through the hips, the ribs go back. So we're going forwards and backwards. A funny movement, because whilst it's not, we're not aware of muscular fatigue, but we understand that there's some restriction. We can feel, can't go any further. So just exploring, I'll be curious about how the impact on the muscles as we take the ribs forwards and backwards. And then just see if you can create a circle, as though the ribs are drawing a circle on the floor. Let's try and keep the shoulders nice and mobile. And the other way. To work the muscles of the hips, we'll need a little bit of a balance. So for this, you might want to have a fingertip on the wall or on the back of a chair. So we'll start with firing up the hip flexors. So place your weight into your left foot. Try and engage the core so the pelvis comes up to the ribs. Chest open wide and chin back. Let's try for 10 rounds of lifting the knee as high as it will go. And then lowering, if possible, not actually touching the floor. So let's try and find that engagement in the core, but quite quickly you'll probably feel that work into the hip flexors. There's quite a lot of weight. Think about the weight of the femur, the thigh bone, and we're kind of reeling it up. Because we are Pilates practitioners, we want to try to do this with a nice alignment. So we keep wide across the collarbone and have that TBA engagement, the transverse abdominals, pulling in that core sitting in of the waist. We've tried to feel those more shallow curves of the spine. As we're neutral spine, tailbone pointing down to the floor, crown of the head up to the ceiling. I like to place the hands on their hips, so it just encourages that posterior tilt of the pelvis. One more on this leg, and then we're going to go to the other leg so that we don't tire out the ankle of that standing leg. All good strengthening, but let's give it a break. Okay, other leg, so plant the toes, and let's go to the left knee. Find that pelvic tilt, long spine, long neck. And we're going to our end range. We're avoiding holding and getting that work into the arms and the hands. We're using the strength of the thigh, the front of the thigh, to lift and lower the knee. We're going to that end point before gliding back down. Aim for stillness in the rest of the body. So whilst we are focusing on firing up these left hip flexors, the whole body is actually engaged and working to stabilize the rest of the joints. So that theme of strengthening all the joints, this is great for the ankle of the standing leg. Every time you start to lower the leg, you can use that as an opportunity, or every in-breath, an opportunity to lengthen up through the spine. Okay, we're going to go back to the other leg. This time, we want to work the outer hip, so plant the toes of that left leg. Let's bend the right knee. Find that core engagement, and we'll lift the knee to the side. Here, we want to try to maintain a neutral spine. So it's very easy to start to stick the bottom out as the knee comes to the side. Try to maybe not lift so high, but keep that length in the spine. Try to make this as gliding and smooth a movement as you can. If you're really not feeling this, and maybe you've got more strength in the outer hip, you can stay high, and for the last 3 or 4, you can pulse high and get that little squeeze work. So feel this into both hips, standing leg working hard as we destabilize. And let's go to the other leg. We'll be taking a cow face pose when we come down to the mat, so that will be lovely for the hips. So bear with me. Let's bend the left knee. Find that engagement, and let's go ahead and lift. So we try to lift the back, the ankle at the same rate as the knee. Try not to leave it behind, because then this changes it to being the quads doing all the work. So It's the whole of the shin, the lower leg lifting. So we're working the outer hip, obviously strengthening the standing hip and using the muscles on the side of the body. If you put your fingers in, you'll find your obliques, also working to reel that leg up. If you want for the last couple, you can pulse high, getting a little bit of a burn, and then come out. If you need to shake out the legs before we go to a hip extension, please do. But otherwise, we're straight into weight into the left foot. Now, tilt the pelvis. Really important here that we maintain that core engagement. We take your right leg behind. Tailbone still points down, and we're pulsing high, squeeze. And again, we're going for roughly 10. But if you feel you need to go a little bit slower to keep this nice position in the hips, that's fine. See if you can avoid bending the knee, because as soon as we bend the knee, we're actually changing the stretch. You're all going to feel this into your hamstrings. But sometimes we bend the knee just so it feels more satisfying, because it feels like we can lift the leg a little bit higher. So working into the muscles, the lower glutes of the thigh muscles. Try and keep your pubic bone and ribs, try and maintain that connection. And that will restrict how far we lift the leg. That just means we're moving with integrity. We've got the support of the core muscles. Oh, I'm ready for the other leg. Okay, we're going to point the toes behind, re-tilt, shoulders back and down. And when you're ready, squeeze the glutes and we lift. So see if you can focus on feeling a connection between the tailbone and your sternum. Sometimes if we think about that kind of diagonal line from the tailbone to the sternum, that of course will reduce how far we can lift the leg. But we're working so many deep muscles in the core and the leg with strength and control. It's Pilates, but if you've got that Ujjayi breath, you've practiced that ocean breath, really good time to use that. It just helps you get that strength in the core. And there's the movements. Ooh, amazing. We're going to hula hoop out the hips, the legs wide, the webbing of the fingers on the crease at the tops of the legs, and then circle out the hips. Lovely. Oh, go easy. You know, we've been contracting repeatedly the muscles on the tops of the legs. Obviously, that's going to add tightness down the legs. So going nice and gingerly, slowly through those circles, and then we'll take it in the other direction. Let's take a dedicated hamstring stretch. So weight into the left foot. Place the heel of the right foot on the floor. So this back leg's bending, and we'll hinge from the hips. So we're getting that stretch in the back of the leg, depending on your body and areas of tightness. It may be a little bit more in the calf rather than the hamstring. So just feel your way in. I'm just going to hold for 3 or 4 breaths. Never straining, never overdoing it, but just being curious how far we can go. Where's the mild discomfort? That nice level of stretch in the back of the leg. Okay, other leg. Plant the heel of the left foot, toes pointing up. And let's hinge from the hips. So rather than round and lose our alignment in the upper body, see if you can keep the spine really long. So I'm pressing the hip creases back, keeping that space, fleshy feet under the chin, so no chin pointing forwards, no crease at the back of the neck, nice long line through the spine, right up into the cervical spine. You can give the back of the leg a squeeze if it's resisting releasing. Amazing. Okay, we need to stretch the fronts of the hips, and then we are coming down to the floor. Let's take a pyramid stance. So right foot forward, left foot back. And now let's tilt the pelvis under, stretch overhead, and we're looking for a stretch down the front of this thigh. If you're not getting it, you can start to bend the front knee. We want to maintain this pelvis up to the ribs connection. And again, we're holding it just for a few breaths, just feeling and release there. I think how many times we lifted that knee, the work that we, the work for the front of the thigh. Let's now give the muscles an opportunity to lengthen, relax. Even peel the back heel off a little bit, but feel that length down the back leg, length down the front of the thigh. Tailbone pointing down to the earth, that will give us a stretch in the front of the thigh. If you've got your balance here, hold that left wrist and reach up and over. So we've still got the bottom tucked under, and we're taking a side bend. Bit of a challenge for the balance sometimes as well. So just breathing, gently taking it to wherever you get to. Then we're on the other side and then coming down to the mat. Lovely. Release, switch the legs. Toes and knees pointing forwards, pretty much hip distance apart. The back heel lifted or lowered, but it's initially find that pelvic tilt, sensations in the front of the right hip. And then we can start to bend this front knee, but keeping that vertical line up the spine. So we'll have to actively get the head back so that it stays over the ribs, with an option of lifting the back heel and sinking down through the front knee. The curl in the pelvis, tucking the bottom under to increase the stretch, and focusing on the breath in and out of the nose with a nice alignment in the upper body. Let's take a side bend, take hold of the right wrist, reach up, and gently, slowly, so you have your balance, taking up and over the body. Breathe into the sensations on the outer hip, around the crest of the hip. And then while you gently ease out, I'll lower the camera. We'll take one roll down through the spine, and we'll meet on all fours. Okay. All right. From all fours, we're just going to do hip circles. So let's take the right knee across the body in a big circle, all the way up and over, like you're hooking the leg up and over, slightly behind the body and returning. So let's have 3 more in this direction with this leg. So now thinking about mobility, having strengthened the muscles, stretch the muscles, now just thinking about nice flowing mobility. And let's take it to the other leg. So because of the leg that's on the floor, the knee on the floor, obviously it restricts the circle. So we have to just work around like there's a piece taken out of the pizza. Now just so that we protect the wrists and shoulders, let's try to keep the shoulders over the wrists. Tendency to go further or leaning back. Let's claw into the fingertips. Try and turn your biceps forward. So all those checkpoints that count when we're doing a down dog or a plank. The chest wide open. We're going from cow face to cow face. So when you're ready, right knee hooks over the left. Separate the feet, and we'll all be at different points here. Maybe you start to lean back and you return forwards. Those who've been doing this a little bit longer, you may be able to sit between the feet. So just feel whether a gentle movement forwards and backwards is better for you. But just enjoy that lovely stretch for the outer hips. If you feel quite secure and you're able to sit between the feet or maybe on one heel, or if you've got a block or a cushion, you can elevate the hips. If you can find a static position, have a go at just breathing into the hips. Further option to take a fold over the knees, over the thighs. And just notice how that then changes the sensations into the back of the hips, into the glutes. So we have the option, we're still in the cross-legged all four position, easing ourselves into a hip stretch. Or static if you're able to sit back. As long as you're finding a nice stretch and you're not overdoing it, your muscles will be happier for it. Last breath on this side, and then we're switching next. Great. So you might want to come back onto all fours to change the cross in the knees. Now we're different on this side, so just because you were able to sit further back on the first side, be kind and patient with yourself if you know you don't get as far on this side. So maybe just easing yourself forwards and backwards initially. Maybe you can find a static position, maybe you're on your forearms, and you can just find a stretch that you can breathe into. Did you know healthy muscles, they need to be able to, we need to strengthen them, that contraction and release. They need that lengthening that we're giving them now to iron out any knots, trigger points, and then a good rest after this. So you have permission to sit with your feet up after this and have a cup of tea. All right, last couple of breaths on this side. We're going to take the clam on each side. Again, just getting that mobility back in the hips after this quite strong work into the hips. And then we'll finish with the yoga bow. So we stretch out the front of the hips. Hip flexors sometimes resist a little bit of release. So we'll give them a little bit more breath and time to relax. Let's lie on our right hand side, knees out in front of you. You can be upright or hold the head in the hands or lie all the way down. But let's lift the feet and we'll breathe in to open the knees and breathe out to return. So you're all very familiar with this. So let's now just make sure we're long through the tailbone. So no sticking the bottom out. We have that length in the lower spine. This means that then we're working with a light engagement in the core. Nice smooth movement. We're not forcing, we're not squeezing, just getting nice fluid movement in the hip. And then we're going to flip onto the other side. So when you're ready, so knees are out in front, ankles roughly in line with the hips. Either upright, but if you're upright, then no collapsing into that lower shoulder. We'll breathe and lift. Breathe out to close. Oh, the sun getting too hot. So there's a little bit of pressure between the feet just to facilitate a little bit of extra opening. We try and keep everything zipped up in the front of the body. Move a little bit more smoothly. So actively lifting, if you're on the forearm, lifting away from the shoulder, lifting the side of the waist from the floor. Got the last couple, and then I promise you on our bellies, when we stretch out the quads, it'll be lovely. Now, if you struggle to reach back for your heel, you might want to reach for a scarf or a strap. All right. Roll onto your belly, have a little rock from side to side, just easing out the glutes, hips, knees, ankles, letting everything soften. So on the left forearm, we'll reach back and see if we can take hold of that right foot. So sometimes you need to turn around and actually find the foot in order to get a hold of it. And otherwise, this is time to loop a strap around your ankle. So the object here is to eliminate the crease at the top of the leg. So let's try and find some length through the knee. So sending the knee to the bottom edge of your mat. We can slightly tilt the pelvis and tuck the bottom under, and you'll feel when that eliminates the crease at the top of the leg, we get a little bit more of a yummy stretch there. You can come down to your forehead. This is all fine. And again, we're just going to breathe into the front of the thigh. Soften. And have some awareness about how much time we spend in a seated position. So with the thigh at a 90-degree angle to the body. So we're just giving a little bit of a counter, a little bit of a breather to the front of the hip. So this might be tight enough for you to work with. You can roll to the outer hip to find the outer crease of the hip to release there. Or in. Now when we switch legs, slowly, slowly, slowly release the leg and then switch to the other side. This is our last one to find your foot. If it's really not happening, you might be able to just take the heel into the bottom and maybe you can hold somewhere along the shin. So just finding what's accessible, and maybe if you don't have a strap to hand, maybe it's something you can have a go at later on if you've not been able to find your foot, your ankle. So again, the object is create space in the front of the hip. So picture where the crease at the top of the leg is. You can even press into the hip bone, slightly lift the knee, and when you place it down a little bit further away from you. Breathing space into the hip, leaning into the hip, so you're leaning and pressing the crease at the top of the leg into the floor. Jaws soft, we can rest forehead down. You're there, this is it. After this, we're just going to roll onto the back, so you'll hug the knees into the chest, have a little rock on the spine, and you can stay there as long as you like. That's your 30 minutes. Strengthening the whole body. Your knees can sway side to side. Soften the jaw. And there we go. Stop recording.